Hey guys, so I'm going to do my current plant collection before I buy any more plants. So this is my Fiddle Leaf Fig, and this is about 4 or 5 of them in this one pot. There's a few of them in here. Initially, when I first purchased this one, I separated all of them. They didn't really thrive, and I just wanted to see which would be best or better, this one or the first one that I purchased. And as you can see, this one didn't really grow as much as the other one, which I will show you guys later on. So this is my Fiddle Leaf Fig plant cluster, essentially, or tree cluster. I have a second one as well, and I will show you guys again later. This one right here is my snake plant, or mother-in-law tongue plant, or Sansevieria. I trimmed the top because I'm trying to propagate it, and when it starts to grow, I'm kind of thinking of just adding them in here. I did just transplant this today. This one I transplanted a day or so ago. This is in cactus soil, and I probably need... No, these are like loose roots from here when I transplanted. So I'm just putting everything back in. What I'm kind of thinking is when the clippings do start to root out and see if they can fit in this pot, I probably will do that. And if I don't feel like they can, if it feels like I need to transplant it, I will. But this was in such a big pot that it was such a, there was always a high potential of it being overwatered because the pot was, I would say, 4 to 5 times bigger than this one. So I just decided, you know what, I'm sick and tired of not really giving it that much water, but because the pot was so huge, it retains so much water, which brought it to overwatering. So as you can see, the tops here, these are the ones that I trimmed out into my clippings, and they are still right now, they're fairly new in there. I'm trying to propagate them for the very first time. Right here, I have my lucky bamboo, and the backstory for this is that I bought, like, I would say 8 to 10 of these. I forgot what happened because I have amnesia and short as well as long-term memory loss due to my multiple head traumas. So I don't remember what I did. What I do remember was I didn't change the water. And, oh, now I remember. There was diluted Miracle-Gro fertilizer in it. Very, very diluted. Because it said when you fertilize it, it needs to be like half the dilution. I think it was either half or even a quarter diluted. So it was very diluted. However, I was extremely busy that amount of time, and my head wasn't really as good as it is right now. It wasn't as healed as well as as it is right now. I do have a plant journal, and I did have that, but I just kind of lost track of it, and so the water turned black, literally black. And that was due to Miracle-Gro fertilizer. So I really don't recommend Miracle-Gro at all. I had to throw a lot of them away. And some of them, it's still a challenge. I'm growing them. I don't know if it could work, but this is the new addition that I had. I am kind of thinking of putting this into dirt because from what I've researched, if you put it into dirt, they become bigger. And that's what I really want to do. This is a mystery orchid. This was a present from me to my husband. This is actually technically his plant. However, for majority of the time, or maybe half the time, I actually take care of it because, I don't know, I like to do it. And sometimes he doesn't have the time because he's busy, so I just do it. This isn't a self-watering pot. I've had this pot for about a decade or so, and whenever, you know, it just, the plant, depending on the plant that you use, they just really use the pot, and I've used different plants with them and transplanted them into bigger ones. That would be the big reason why it would be taken out. What I have noticed though is that putting orchids in here really is like the best choice to do, because they really thrive in that kind of situation where there's a water reservoir always somewhat moisturizing the root system. So it was by accident that I actually did that. And this is the only way I really know how to grow orchids. Again, and this is a mystery orchid for us. We don't know the kind of orchid. And this is actually burnt due to it couldn't really take the sunlight and the artificial light in the other 2 rooms that it was before. So I moved it over here, and the burning hasn't gotten worse. So I think that's a good thing. So when I got this for my husband, I made him, we went to a nursery and I made him pick, and he decided to get this one. And it didn't have any tags at all, except that it said exotic orchid. And I will close up on the leaves just so, you know, I don't know if it's a Cattleya. I don't know if it probably is not a Cattleya because the leaves are thinner than a Cattleya. I don't know if it's an Oncidium or a Dendrobium. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. So if you guys know, let me know down in the comment section below. And this looked exactly as is. It had those monster roots. It had this one stalk that's still there, and I really attribute that from the planter. That really helped it stay there, green and healthy. This is my Schefflera. This is one of my latest purchase, and she's kind of a tall one, but she also is on a shelving unit. I apologize how messy that is, but it is what it is. That's just how it looks right now. And I'm waiting for this to actually grow taller. And when it does grow taller, I am thinking of taking the shelving unit in a different part of the house. But for now, it's right here just so this plant and my other plant, my Fiddle Leaf Fig, can actually benefit from the sunlight. So basically, this window gets about 12 hours of sunlight every day. Even if it's gray, there's still like a little bit, like still some light. So the plants here really do thrive. And I'm going to show you the next one, which is my Fiddle Leaf Fig. Again, this is my Schefflera right now. It's a very variegated version because it has the yellow stuff on there. I have tried to clean this off as much as possible. And when I first got it, the leaves were really falling off. So I just kind of waited and just cleaned a little bit at a time. I just didn't want to overdo it and more leaves would fall out. So this is my other Fiddle Leaf Fig Tree cluster. And I believe it's like 5 or 6 in here. And this has really grown from when I first purchased it. I think it was like up to here when I first purchased it. And now it has definitely grown. I am very, very happy about that. All the brown spots have not gotten worse. That was there when I purchased the plant. So I'm really happy about that. This is what I was talking about when I showed you the other Fiddle Leaf Fig Tree cluster. This one I never separated. And I'm really glad that I didn't because it is thriving tremendously. The other one is not. And I'm really hoping putting every single one of them that still managed to survive being separated is actually going to be better, and we'll do this. Like this definitely got wider and thicker and taller. Not as fast as, as I thought, because a lot of people were saying that it could grow like a few feet tall. I don't think it did, but I see this every day. So I don't know. And I will link down below everything that I'm using for the plants, like fertilizer, supplements, all that good stuff, what I used to use, what I'm currently using, all that stuff, because when I'm researching about plants or looking at plant collections, I am also very intrigued on what plant is getting what. And I do want, I mean, my biggest goal is to want my plants to be bigger and lush and thicker and just gigantic. That's what I want. Just thick, lush, wide, tall, bushy, that kind of situation. That's what I want. This here is my corn plant. This is my first corn plant ever. If there are still any kind of burnt tips, like I needed to trim it down, but as much as possible when I first got this, I did trim out a lot of the burnt leaves because it was due to inconsistent watering. When I purchased it, and this was in clearance, I forgot which store I got it from, but it was in sold at clearance, and I don't know if it was $5 or $10, and I snatched it. I just couldn't help myself. This was the first time I've ever had this plant. I wasn't sure as to how to care for it completely, and this is how I usually do it when I don't really know much about the plant and how to care for it, like personal experience. I can read all about it until I'm like delirious from doing research, but from my personal experience, learning hands-on is definitely the best way to go. Like, you see a lot of blogs and information, and sometimes you have to consider that their environment is different from your environment. So with that in regard, a few things could change, or a lot could change. So when I have mastered this, or I feel comfortable, I'm thinking of actually adding a second one, because I really love this plant, and I kind of want to get rid of this right there and fill it with maybe 2 of these, or a different plant that would cover the window. That window right there doesn't really, it gets more of like indirect bright light. It doesn't really get light directly from it. However, when it's opened, the neighbors can see us in, and I don't like that. I would prefer it just to be completely sealed and covered with plants. So this is my corn plant. And again, all the stuff that I have fed it previous, if I did change it, I will let you guys know in the description section. If I didn't change it and I'm still using the same stuff, it will be down in the description section as well. This gets a lot of bright indirect light. I would say the same as the Schefflera, because it's in the same room, but this is far, far away from a window. I've noticed that this is a very sensitive plant. Even if it get hit by artificial lighting, it can burn still. So that's why I had to relocate this plant twice already due to that. And because this room has cathedral ceilings, the ceiling lighting, if it is on, it's not on very long, and if it is on for a few hours, it's really, really far, versus the other 2 rooms that I did put this in. It was maybe 2/3 closer than it is right now. So it definitely is doing better. Also, the 2 rooms were facing in like opposite sides of the home. One would only get both of them would get a few hours, but different times in the day. One would be kind of all day, and the other one was just in the morning, but in the morning, but only for a few hours, obviously. And the other side would get it, but the light is not really as intense. However, I have to turn on the artificial lighting in that room due to just where it's located and what we do in the room. So this poor baby was burning, and so I had to haul it up in a different room by myself, and it was extremely heavy, but well worth it, because she's thriving, and just look at how beautiful her leaves are. And that really does show that she's happy. So this is my exclusively indoor Meyer lemon tree, and I am down to just a few flowers now. I want this plant to just get thicker, more leaves, thicker trunk, thicker branches, and just a lot more leaves. I'm waiting for all the flowers to go away, because when that happens, then the plant can actually focus on just thickening up. Because when a flowering plant or an edible plant actually produces fruit or any kind of edible food, fruit, vegetable, what have you, or flowers, it actually focuses most of the energy to that versus growing the plant taller and wider and just thicker and all that stuff. So that's just my plan now. And when it is going to be thicker, then I would be a lot more comfortable in actually making it grow some lemons for me and my family, and that we can enjoy. This is my husband's Jade. Technically, it was like I gave him a birthday present, and he was probably like 2-3 inches tall. That was 3 years ago. And I will show you next what the mother plant looks like now. This was a clipping from it, a branch actually, not just one leaf. And these are two separate plants in here. There's one right there, and there's one right there. I actually clipped a lot of the other branches that I knew my husband didn't want, because he would prefer this to look more of like a tree. And if you don't know, this is a jade plant, or two jade plants. I recently just trimmed here and like a few of them, and I put them in a different pot, which I will show you later on. Again, all of the plants, what I'm using for all of them, I will link them down below in the description section, so it's easy for you guys. So just focus on what I'm showing you guys. So this is the mother plant. I would say it has gotten pretty tall. It used to be this tall, like I think here initially when we got it, or maybe this. It was a birthday gift that I gave my husband. It was actually like a 3-in-1 set. I got it at Costco. The other two never survived for whatever reason, but jade plants are very resilient, and they really are very, very easy to grow. Doesn't matter if you're a beginner, a novice, or an expert gardener. It's very easy to grow. Actually, backstory from this and these two, they almost died at some point, and that was due to Miracle-Gro. And my husband essentially just said, just toss them out. And so I took them in, and I cut up the bad roots and all that stuff. And these two actually had 0 roots, and when I put them back in, and now they do have roots. That was, when was that? That was a few months ago. And now they have roots, and they have new growth and all that good stuff. So what I did really did work. With this one, it was the same, and he was literally like, it was so unfair, because he was like, I don't want them anymore. You can have them. I'm like, can I really have them? He's like, yeah, I want to toss them anyway. And as soon as he saw that they were all okay, he's like, I changed my mind, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that's really uncool, man. And he's like, well, that was a present. You can't take a present, well, whatever. And I'm like, well, you said you were going to get rid of it. He's like, I changed my mind. So I still kind of give him a hard time once in a while. Not all the time, but like once in a while, because you don't want to hear that all the time, right? I know I don't want to hear it. So this is how he wants his jade plant to look. Essentially before, because I really started kind of growing a jade plant when we were together. And mine died due to Miracle-Gro as well. This was like a couple years ago. And because I gave him the jade, he really liked it and he wanted to make it look more like a tree. And the more I see it this way, the more I want my plants to look like that. So what I've been, because he only really started with one jade plant, I did the same thing. I got myself a jade plant, and what I've done is that I have trimmed it, and I only want it to have like one trunk per plant. So probably in like a couple years from now, we're gonna have a ton of jade plants because I love propagating them. I love clipping them from a branch and growing that as one plant. Like this will probably be cut at some point, and one of those are going to be cut at some point, and probably this is going to be cut at some point because this is thicker. So I don't know yet. Like this one can be cut at some point. Like I'm really enjoying propagating with a more established stem or branch versus leaves. I'm enjoying the leaf situation, but it does take quite, and that is due to the fact that there is more of the plant to produce more, to actually ingest more light, ingest more nutrients, and then you could just grow it's faster, is basically. And I will link down everything below, as I've said before, what I've used to actually make it survive and encourage root growth as well as plant growth. So sometimes like I don't remember how when I see this plant, I'm just like, oh, our jade is so beautiful, and then I remember the backstory of it, and sometimes it just like wows me on how it was such an itty bitty plant and now it's like a giant plant with plant babies, and I will show you the other plant babies as well. So we have here is my Marble Queen Pothos. I wasn't really even sure if I was going to get this, and the reason for that is I have a bigger one, but I don't know. There was just something about it that I'm like, I want it to. This was my first Pothos that I got this year. However, like many years ago, I did have a Pothos, and it came across Miracle Grow. That company is just, their products is very unforgiving, so be very careful when you use it, because it killed like a very established Pothos. My Pothos was like 4 or 5 years, and then I used Miracle Grow on it. I mean, it's a hit or miss, essentially. Like, if it thrives, then you're lucky, and then if it doesn't, it doesn't. It just really kills it. And I did follow the directions as, instructed. I got this first, and it's not really as pretty as this one. It's not really as full and as lush and as healthy as this one. This is my, I think this is a Jade Pothos. I'm not really sure, but I love Pothos. So what I recently did with this is that it grew kind of a little more leggy. And so I trimmed it, and I dipped it in root powder, and I popped it in the dirt. And I actually transplanted this because this used to be in a probably triple the size of this pot. And that was a big mistake. So, yeah, just kind of learning stuff again, which is not a bad thing, if there's always room for improvement. So this is one of my orchids. I think this is my white orchid with a little hint of yellow in the middle. It's a Phalaenopsis. And now this is in a self-watering planter, just like the other orchid that's my husband's orchid. And this still has water. When it reaches to the minimum, the directions is depending on how long you've had your plant in this pot, you start off with 7 days. And it also depends on how big the plant has been since then. So first time would be 7 days. The next time, if you want to try 8 days, you try 8 days. Next time it'd be 9 days, 10 days, all that stuff. So what I based it on, if it's 7 days and I see that the leaves are still healthy and thriving, then I give it an extra day or even 2. However, and this is after the first fill. However, if I see that the leaves are wrinkling and it looks incredibly thirsty, then I'll stay with the 7-day mark and I'll just water it up to the max and just kind of not think about it for a few weeks unless it has new growth, because there really isn't anything you do. I don't have to water it again until it goes to minimum, and then let it dry out, and then water it again to the max. So this recently started maybe a month or so ago, and this was from the stalks. Came with the plant itself. A lot of orchid growers, like my husband's grandmother, after the flowers have bloomed, they usually just trim the stalks. I've never done that before, and I never want to, and I get my stalks to rebloom, and I really attribute this to whatever I'm feeding it right now. Again, they'll be down below, because there's so many new growth. Here, that's new. This is new. This is new itself, and it's actually having another one. This is new too. I always get like new leaves too, but the new leaves, I think that just also comes with the system, the pot system. There's always new growth because it's constantly feeding it, and I do fertilize and supplement it now. Before, when I would fertilize it, I would get this kind of growth, but it wasn't like this many. And I'm really glad that I'm supplementing it now, because I think the plants are growing like weeds, and I really, really love it. And I'm pretty sure there are other people out there that want to do that. So check my description section. And this one has gotten really tall. Again, this stalk, the 3 stalks, came with the plant itself. It never wilted. I never cut it off. It's not a new growth. The new growths are the branches right here and there. And so now I'm just gonna talk about 2 of my Thanksgiving cacti. And this is the light pink one, and it still has some buds on there. This is the dark pink one, and this has already exhausted the current buds. And usually when that happens, for me, my personal experience, it can take a few months for new buds to come out and for new blooms. Now, a lot of people always ask me, what's your secret? I don't have a secret. I always just fertilize every time I water. And that's it. I don't move it. A lot of people move it around, put it in darker sections of their home, and keep it there for weeks or days or whatever. I don't really do that. I just let them grow the way they are, and they always rebloom for me. So again, all the stuff that I use for this will be linked down below, so do check that out if you want to. This is one of my newer orchids, and she is just beautiful. So I was at I think Home Depot, and I was feeling really down because I had a miscarriage earlier this year, and I was thinking of having some kind of plant to represent my miscarriage, and this just kind of really like smacked me in the face. So I got this one, and it made me feel a lot better, because it was really kind of hard getting into the holidays and, you know, thinking, oh, my other son is never going to experience Thanksgiving or Christmas or New Year's or Valentine's and things like that. So I was feeling really down. And so I've had this probably, has it been a month? I think so. Maybe about a month. Yeah, a month, 4 to 5 weeks maybe. And the flowers are still really beautiful. Again, everything is linked down below in what I'm using. And it's a very happy plant. I'm so happy I have that one. These 2 I got because Home Depot was having like their 2 for 10 after the Black Friday. So I got this after Black Friday. I didn't do it on Black Friday, but it was after Black Friday, like maybe a few days or a week after or something, because I don't really go on sales. It petrifies me. And all of these are using the self-watering planters by Lechuza. And they've been thriving ever since. These ones, I should say I've gotten them for, well, I didn't get them the same time as the yellow one. So I got them, you know, after that, and they're still doing great. There's a bad story with this one because when I was moving my plants around, I broke a little bit of the branch, which I will show you guys later that I did save, and it's been broken for like 2 weeks now or something like that. I was moving stuff around, trying to showcase my beautiful flowers. That just didn't work out. And all my orchids are being fed or watered exactly the same. They have the same formulation, the same ingredients in the water that I give them. Next, I'm going to talk about my jade. So this jade is a clipping from my husband's jade. This, the biggest one, was clipped months ago. Remember when I told you the story about my husband's jade was pretty much on their last leg. They looked like they were going to die, and I rescued them. This was one of 2 branches that he already tried to propagate, and I had to cut like an inch, yeah, about an inch or 2, depending on how bad the rot was on the bottom. That was again because of Miracle Grow. I've switched products. Don't worry about that. And so now I trimmed his stuff. I mean, the big tree, the big jade plant again. And these little babies came from that. This was initially one of 3. This one. The other 2, my mother-in-law was here a few weeks ago. The other 2, I transplanted them and I gave it to her. And they were already like grown. So this one right here and this little baby's right here, I'm going to grow them and they're going to be individual plants. But for now, I know patience really is the key to it because this was just snipped. And I did just transplant this because this was in 2 separate pots, smaller pots. And I put them all together in one, like a bigger pot, just so they can thrive together. Because from my experience, when I'm trying to propagate jade and it's with a stem, what happens is that you want the soil to be very like moist all the time, because they need it. And what I'm using for this is just supplements, no fertilizer, because majority of them do not have a root system yet. Okay, I'm going to move this right here. And this, I just transplanted. These are a bunch of different succulents in one, 2, 3, 4 different kinds. I actually just transplanted these today. These were in 2 separate pots, and I just kind of thought, why not put them all together? They're all going to need the same fertilizer, the same nutrients, the same dirt, so why not? And to be quite honest, it looks like I have less plants, and when I do get more plants, like my husband is just going to be like not gonna like say, oh, you have too many plants. No, I cleared some out. So that was initially the plan. And also I think they thrive. I think they thrive when they're more in more confined environment. Up next, this was my mystery Kalanchoe. I got this on clearance in my supermarket, and I think it was like $2 or $3 or something. I snatched it. I kind of regret not snatching the other one because there were 2. And I only took 1. I didn't know the kind of flower it was going to be. I mean, the color. And I didn't know if it was going to be a single or a double bloom. I didn't even know until I bought this one that there is such a thing as a Kalanchoe double bloom. This is just a single bloom. She is just utterly beautiful. So I really, really love it. And they've been blooming for a while now. Yep. This is another jade cluster that I am propagating. Whoops. That I am trying to propagate. These have no root system whatsoever. I'm just going to lean it there. This came from my plant. So that came from, oh, I'm sorry. This is actually my plant. I apologize for that. This is actually my plant, and I did trim some of it to propagate it, and a few of them are in here. Not a lot, just a few. The ones in the bottom. Those are ones that I clipped that were branches. And don't worry, it will be okay right there. Right there. So this was mine. And the pot itself was about double the size to triple the size. I just didn't think it was thriving enough, because from my experience in taking care of a jade or watering my jades and my succulents or like a cacti plant, I would prefer the smaller pots like this would have an inch dry soil in the top, and make sure the soil is dry like sand and it doesn't stick to your fingers. Now, when it was in a much bigger pot, that took a while. Now, you have to consider that it's taken a while because there's a lot more soil, but your plant isn't really getting the nutrients it kind of needs, essentially. So I just transplanted it. This is another Kalanchoe. Whoops, I don't want that to happen. This is another Kalanchoe, and this has light pink flowers. This is my first Kalanchoe. I got this at like buy 3 for whatever price, and I did buy a few other succulents with that. This was my first, this is my second, and I really, really love this. And the weird part is, if I were to buy a Kalanchoe now, and if I were to suggest or advise anybody who would, ask my opinion, I would tell them to get the bigger one. They're a couple bucks more, but you get a lot more flowers, and I think it's just well worth it. Also, it's a little limpy like that because I was using Miracle-Gro. I know I've said that multiple times, but you could see the results. This one, because it's bigger, I used Miracle-Gro on it. The effect isn't so bad, but you could see like some of the leaves. But this one is all very limpy now because I used Miracle-Gro on it. Because this was my first. So I was using Miracle-Gro on it for like 2-3 times. And I was just like, what's going on with my plant? And I realized that maybe it's just not a better fit. I have switched to a different fertilizer, and it is thriving now. This used to be like even limpier, if you can imagine that. So next I'm going to talk about my orchid. This has yellow leaves and like pink freckles on the petals. It's very, very beautiful. Again, it also has the original stalks when I first got it with the flowers. And the only difference is it has new growth like right here. I'm going to show you right there. Right there is the new growth. There's always a new leaf, as well as new roots right there. Right there, and these are new leaves right here. I think these two have been new, and then it's always growing, and I really do attribute that for the self-watering pot. It really does help the situation. So if you're having problems with your orchid, I suggest just get one of these. And again, everything is linked down below. This is my amaryllis plant. The first time I watered it, I think I just watered it 2-3 times. The first time I watered it, it was with a Miracle-Gro, and it didn't really thrive at all. So the next time that I was watering it, I used just supplements. And again, everything will be linked down below, so you know exactly what I'm using. After that, I used a different brand of fertilizer, and now it's having growth. It was kind of, looking pretty sad when I was just using the Miracle-Gro on it. I learned my lesson, and so I've switched. So these, if you are in my Facebook groups, you probably have seen this post. So these were garbage in Home Depot. When I saw them, I spoke to the garden center manager, and I asked him if I could take him home, since they were throwing it out. So these were all for free. He said, take as many as I want. And because if they didn't throw a lot of the thorny cacti, I probably would have gotten more. I was like literally dumpster diving and I got all these plants for free. Yes, a lot of them look pretty bad and damaged and all that because they were thrown in the garbage. They weren't just gingerly put in a shelf on display. They were thrown in there and nobody cared. So I have been caring for them, and I kind of liked the fact that I'm putting them all in one big pot and they're getting watered at the same time and all that. And I can't wait for them to just keep growing and be fuller. I can't believe these were like free. You know what I mean? Like if these weren't free, like fresh off the truck from a nursery, I don't know. I think this would have been closer to $100. I think. Because Home Depot succulents like this would have probably been like $10 or something. Like a lot of their succulents are not very cheap. So anyway, moving on. These are another set of succulents. It's looking pretty kind of sad. The reason it looks pretty sad is because this one right here, the pork and beans, I think it's like really fragile, and it does break off really quickly. So that's pretty sad. These are from my Jade plant that I am trying to propagate here. This is some kind of Echeveria. I don't remember. This is, I think, another pork and beans. I forgot. Another Echeveria right here. This one will produce flowers. But again, because they're so small and certain succulents really are very fragile. So when I transplanted them, a lot of the leaves did fall. So I as much as possible, I try not to look at this pot because it makes me feel very sad and depressed. Because I feel very guilty and not doing a better job. So now I have my Ziva or Paperwhite plant. And this is what she looks like. And I really do believe that it's because I was, whatever the supplement that I put in here, which will be linked down below, it really has prolonged the blooms this long. Because this has been blooming for about a little over a month. And I really, really love it. This is my other, this is my other Marble Queen, Pothos. And as I mentioned with the smaller one, when I saw this one, this was the only one I was going to get. Yeah, sure. So because of the size, it was just like, just beautiful. And I've never actually seen a Marble Queen before until that day. And I just couldn't help myself and I bought it. So I recently clipped it, and I put it, I dipped it in rooting powder and I put it in the dirt, and I'm hoping it will just start to grow as well. And just look at how big that leaf is. I wear a medium-sized glove, so my hand is not super tiny, and this is big as well. And look at that monster, just beautiful. I love it. I love this. I have tested this in different kinds of lights, in different areas, and it's growing like a weed. I feel like if you're a new gardener or you're new into indoor gardening and maybe you're interested in a pothos, I would suggest get the biggest pothos you could find first, because it's easier to manage a more established plant versus a really small plant. Now, the reason that I prefer small plants a lot of times is because I like it to flourish and know that it's my hard work from growing from a really tiny plant to a monster at some point. I really love the journey. Now I'm going to be talking about my ZZ plant. I used to have, I think, like 20 ZZ plants, and they were about 5 times bigger than the, excuse me. However, due to just moving around in life, they all slowly died. But I always, I'm more of a half full kind of person. And so what I do know is that I did learn a lot from those plants, and I'm starting with one because it is in the colder months. I don't know. I just haven't really seen a lot of options for this plant. It's either too small or too big. I would prefer in this size, and I would prefer to get more in this size and maybe put them all together in one pot and just make them grow taller. I also did clip this because I'm trying to propagate. I have clipped, I think 5 of them. It fits in one planter. So when those grow, what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to just put them in here because there is room. What I'm also trying to do is when that does happen, hopefully by that time, because I heard it can take a really long time to grow roots and be stable enough to put in soil, I might be clipping this and just keep on going that kind of route. You know, that's another option too. But I do want to get another plant that is a ZZ plant and combine it with this and make it into a more wider plant because I want all my windows to be covered with plants to have some kind of privacy. So these are all Cattleya orchids. These are gifts from my husband. They are really small and they are very tiny babies. So this is going to take a few years before I can even probably see a stalk. Now the biggest of the bunch is this one, and the next biggest is this one. So yeah, it's just going to be kind of just very foliage from now. I really hope that maybe, you know, in the near future, maybe in 2 years, I can see a stalk come out because these are really like young. And it takes like several years before you actually see a flower from an orchid. Next, I have my Petra Croton. As you can see, I have a string tied to it because this was on clearance and it actually bounced back a little bit. I got this on clearance for, I think, like $5 or less than $5. Excuse me, I'm not really entirely sure. All the colors like this that's been yellow, all of the leaves have stayed put. I haven't lost a leaf since I got it. I've got this for a few weeks now. So what I have learned is that because there were a lot of advice from a lot of different people, and some people said to water it every week, some people said every 2 weeks, some people said to let it dry out more, yada yada, and also like through Google. So I did let it dry and it got really crispy. So this damage was from me, and that was, you know, trial and error. And so I kind of know now when to water her and not to make it too dry. And it really wasn't dry at all. Like the top wasn't very dry and she just started to go crispy. So that just means the plant is thirsty when your leaves start to get crispy. Now, when these are yellowing, usually that indicates that it is overwatered. However, this yellowing came with the plant that was on clearance. I really love this plant. I'm planning on probably buying another one, because they are supposedly like really bushy and they can get really tall depending on how you provide the light. So a lot of people have questions on certain plants that they have are a little too leggy or a little too tall but not very full. In order for you to do that, you can supplement it with a light closer to the plant that will make it fuller. If the light source is too high, it will make your plant a lot more leggy versus fuller. If you want the more full effect, I would suggest to kind of put a light closer to it to make it fuller. And then if you have like an adjustable lamp, you can raise it up. And, you know, I would say every 3 months, depending on the plant. Next, I would like to talk about my pencil cactus. So I got this plant. I really didn't think I was going to get this plant. We were at a nursery, probably like my favorite nursery. And I I was just like talking to myself and my husband, I guess, who was right there, I guess, listening, talking to myself. And I was like, oh my God, it's such an unusual plant. It's so beautiful, whatever. And then he said, you know what? You say the exact same thing every time we come. So I'm like, and immediately when he said that, I'm like, all right, then I'm taking this home today. So I put it in my cart and I bought it. This is labeled as a pencil cactus. So if you guys know that it might be called a different kind of plant, let me know down below, because there were some people in my plant groups that said that this is called something else. And this is just how she looks like. I believe what happens is that these keep growing, the stalks, and they can produce leaves, and that's it. It's just like that. I want this to be fuller and thicker and also taller. So that's my goal. Next, I'm going to talk about my topsy-turvy Echeveria. These are new growth. These started to grow while being with me. This was actually much smaller when I bought this. And this was very, very difficult to transplant because I lost a ton of leaves because of that. This was already wilted when I bought this plant. This was here. These were the reasons why I bought this plant, because this was like full with flowers over there, and those were the only stalks that had them. And I lost a ton of leaves, all of the leaves here. That was due to transplanting and transporting them from the nursery to my home. So if you guys have any of these, I would suggest, if you can get a even bigger plant, I would go with that one. The reason I say that is because if you lose a leaf or two, it's still going to really thrive. Like this, I probably lost about like 20 leaves from this entire plant, and it still produced flowers for me. And as you can see, it looks pretty healthy. I never really trimmed this out. This is a stalk, and these are old stalks. I never really just trimmed it out. That's just me. I am on the fence if I should give it a haircut or not. I'm not really sure. So if you have an opinion, if you have advice, let me know down below. My first ever Anthurium, and she is in the red flower color. This comes in different colors: white, red, I believe maybe an orange, pink, and a purple or lavender colors, and put them in my collection. So this has burnt because that was just from the light, I think, and also it kind of dried out a lot more. I think it just kind of burnt a little bit. So a lot of the damage in this particular plant actually came from when I bought it. It wasn't really all just from me. And this plant is so resilient and so easy to grow. I actually put this in like an all-purpose potting mix. I fertilize it. I'll link that all down below. Don't worry about that. And it grows like a weed. I love it. I think this is probably like like a quarter the size already. And this is a new flower right here. The newer flowers are like in a glossy side and kind of in a dark side, which is so beautiful. This is apparently just damaged. I'm sorry about that. I don't really like to trim my plants unless I'm trying to propagate them. So if you could see, there's some imperfect leaves, but this one is a newer one. And I have another new one right here. Like I said, if you want a plant that is very affirmative in a sense, that every week you got new growth, it's constantly growing, get an Anthurium. I love this plant, and I got a bigger one. This is in white. Completely love it. This is one of the newer leaves, as you can see the difference. This is an older leaf and a newer leaf. This is more very flimsier and thinner and glossy, and the color is actually deeper. So I really, really love that. And all of the leaves here. I think the bulb that I have is just a bit too harsh for the plant because it's starting to burn too. And I was kind of trying to experiment if it was that or not, but I think it might be it. So I'm probably going to switch this around. These damaged from the nursery itself. I never really trimmed them off because the more leaves that there are, the more they can suck up the light and grow more. So I love that. And just look at the flower. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And again, it's another Anthurium, but this is a much bigger one. So the flowers are bigger. Here's another one right there. Versus like this cutie little flower. You know what I mean? Like this cutie little flower. Like you compare those two. It's just, I would think they're years apart in age. Next, I have my desert rose. I have two of them right here. This taller one right here. This is a pink one, and the smaller one, the shorter one right here is a white one. The white one did give me flowers because when I bought it, it already had buds, and it was able to bloom for me. And this one, this was all just like leaves here. This actually had 0 leaves, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait until the whole stem or the whole bark dies, and then I'm just gonna put it into compost. But I'm just gonna keep it as is, and it did grow. And I would attribute it to the supplement that I was giving it. And again, everything is linked down below. Same with this. If you could see, it was burning. That was because I used Miracle Grow on it, a very, very diluted Miracle Grow, and it still burned the leaves. So I wouldn't really suggest that. Everything is going to be linked down below on what I use for this plant. So this is my shelving unit for my plants, and I really hope the next time I do an update on my plant collection, this will be fuller. Last but not the least, this is my Aglaonema, and she's been through a lot because I followed the directions and I followed Google, and it said to water her every week, which it was slowly killing her. I watered her after that every 2 weeks. It was slowly doing that. So I did have to kind of learn that you need to wait for the top, for this size now, I would say the top 2 inches of the soil to be dry. This was in a much bigger pot, and I did just transplant this today. And the reason for that is that I've noticed that it dries, it doesn't dry as quick if it is obviously a bigger pot because it has more dirt in it. So I just wanted to make sure it's constantly being fed whenever it needs to be, and not just like the bounding, the outskirts of the area where the root system really is just going to dry because of the atmosphere and not because of the plant. So that's why I transplanted it. This plant is also a very affirmative plant in the sense that you really do get to see a lot of growth really quickly. And as you can see, I didn't give it that much water, but because it was in a really large pot, I have yellowing leaves here, and this is starting to yellow as well. So that was another reason why I wanted to switch it. But as you can see, I really love the baby leaves, and it's so glossy, and it's super soft. And I got another one. This, I would really, yeah, the reason I think it's growing like that is because of what I feed it. And everything, again, is linked down below, so do check that out. This used to be about, this probably in the past 6 months, it probably gave me an extra 1/4 to 1/3 of the plant. This used to be much smaller. And I love this plant. It just, it doesn't need a lot of attention. It's away from the window. It prefers to be away from the window because if it's close to the window, even only a few feet from a window or from a light, like what I have here, an artificial light, it can scorch the leaves, which it has done with this plant. I actually want to get another Aglaonema, and I know what to do with it now, so I'm not worried about that. So this is my current plant collection, and I hope to update this in a yearly, maybe the soonest is semi-annual, if in case I'm starting to have like a huge addition for my collection. But for now, I'm kind of just thinking I'm gonna stick to an annual situation because this has been a lot longer of a video than I really anticipated. But I really hope you guys enjoyed watching my plant collection. I love sharing it with you guys, and I hope you get some ideas. I love watching these kind of videos because it gives me ideas of what other plants that maybe I want to get. So I hope I enabled and fed someone else's plant disease out there. I am not gonna lie, I'm proud about that. I hope you enjoyed my video, that you're going to hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you're notified every single time I do upload a new video. If you have any questions, suggestions, anything that I might have missed, let me know down below in the comment section. If you just want to talk about gardening or plants, anything to do with any of the plants I showed you, let me know down below. I love chit-chatting with you guys all the time. And if you want to connect with social media, I have all my social media accounts in the description section. And again, I will try as much as possible to put everything that I'm using with my plants to make them thrive. That what I believe has actually given me great results will be down below as well. I will not link any of the items that I have used that have failed or killed or made my plants sickly or withered or problematic. Don't worry about that. I will just only add the ones that I have experienced to make my plants thrive. Thank you guys again so much for stopping by and watching my plant collection video for this year. I hope you guys have wonderful holidays, and I hope you guys will have a great new year.